And the in the process, the last part, completing a post resettlement activities, I think this is the area, this one, and the support of NGO. I think that is the critical part in our entire process of this coordination and rehabilitation process, because we saw to it the hand holding goes much beyond signing off a paper and people moving in. We provided vehicles for shifting things. We were with the people, and we engaged quite a few social workers, qualified social workers from institutes like Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Nirmala Niketan, whatever people said, you need to have a professional of this quality, we would engage them. And this is a kind of a process which I am for just summing up the story, because from here I shift and change gears onto something else, is the entire process was fully mapped out, approved by the beneficiaries, approved by the government, approved by the World Bank, and reviewed by the inspection panel. And yes, this is the sequence. There may be, of which I always, I've been documented and I have said that there are operational difficulties. If 4 of us buy a car, same space, same thing, all 4 of the cars don't operate the same way, because these are operational difficulties. So similarly, when we did this few thousand households to be shifted, there were issues, so we improved upon it. But the process was very, very clear that negotiated resettlement and income restoration of employees, because that was also part of the thing. And this activity, which I'm saying, is improved management of forced resettlement activities, because we had studied quite a few resettlement sites and low-income households in Mumbai. And we found that infrastructure is not maintained. Once the allotment, or once a car is bought or a vehicle is bought or an equipment is bought, the post operations and maintenance prima facie depends on the owner. And this was another area which we learned, that people want ownership but not the O&M. So this is an area which we worked on, and there were plans which were prepared. So all this process, which I would look at, environmental management, then the institutional arrangements for R&R management, societies, how do we make them? There were places, because we followed the SRA norms, so there was a place for Porute Housing Society office, then Balwadis, then other facilities which needs to be done. Then the interesting part is that we kept updating our knowledge. A case study and a particular location, we would ensure that we update it and ensure better plans are made for the next day, so we don't repeat similar flaws or mistakes. Then database management, I would say we had done from day one. From we shifted from paper files to computers, and from there we went on to creating better database management structure. So what I would look at is that we need to have that kind of an understanding that we are dealing with people, we are dealing with communities, and the communication and consultation with project affected people, or we call it project beneficiaries, was more or less seamless. And we had a system for streamlining the grievances also. It was a 2-stage, which I will share in the next slide. Then operationalizing the resettlement plan implementation manual. So we prepared a manual also, and we shared that if anything which we find that there is missing, so we would incorporate and say this is a manual, so that in continuity, in posterity, the future officials or the system could continue with kind of the good management practices. Then structuring and implementing the post resettlement strategy. This is very, very important, is that after giving the houses, how do we look at the economic improvements, and how do we look at the housing societies are managed properly? So all that was part of the post resettlement strategy, which was part of MMRDA's policy. So in this, I would say we constructed about 50,000 tenements, about 225 square foot space carpet area for each tenement, and they were multi-story with tenurial rights. And we built large number of integrated, about 46 kind of thing. And interesting is, they were all within Mumbai. Unlike with the stories which people heard that they were outside the city, pushed 30 kilometers, 40 kilometers away, they were all within a kind of a radius of about 7 to 10 kilometers. And that too in Mumbai. People travel 60 kilometers and 80 kilometers in Mumbai. So we looked at it from that perspective, which was a relative perspective. So what do we have? We have community center, society offices, shops with civic amenities like schools and hospitals in the neighborhood. There were a lot of issues. People came, we went to the inspection panel, we visited, and we satisfied and we showed them travel plans. There was one case study which I would like to share, which probably when you Google, you will find that the resettlement colony is next to the abattoir in Devnar. Today, it is the prime property in Mumbai. The best of the names, you find it there. There is a expressway which lands up at Devnar and crossing that area. So go, and you have this municipal solid waste dump yard. Today, again, if you see the study of the land use, they have all transformed. So point is that if you look at point analysis, then probably we are not, if you do a time series analysis in retrospect and in prospect, then probably what we have been doing is I would look at these resettlement towns so very, very good with all the water supply, sewerage, stormwater drainage. And what does this do? This gives a comfort level. Like if you are buying a house or you are looking at something, you really find that if these facilities are there, what do? We shift. Typically in Mumbai at least. So these were the various sites, totally about 50 odd thousand houses. And these were some of the sites which we were dealing in. These were slightly old photographs when they were being constructed and just before the allotment, just before the allotment. You can see that people in action. These are the balwadis which is there. And we followed the cooperative housing society norm. Every house and is marked and a board is displayed. And this board actually gives a condition that these houses cannot be sold for 10 years. So the entry itself is a warning. Of course, there are stories which we hear. It's part of the system, I think. This is a rehabilitation site. Have people adopted, and happily living? I think it is left to the people. There may be counter photographs also, but here I'm saying that whatever I attempted to share with you is that the intent, the purpose, the object was very clear, that people need to be built into the social space. These are some things which we did in R&R, in MMRDA and something, is recognizing people's concern regarding involuntary settlement. I have spent days sitting with people, 9:30, 10, whatever the timings are, in the night. Trying to understand their concerns and sharing our concerns. And the consultation and negotiation process was more than what the World Bank have also expected. We had documented them. We had created a photograph evidence. We had minutes of the meeting. Everything was in public domain because there were a lot of RTIs, right to information questions, and most of the time used to be spent on this by a separate officer. So people came out with ideas. People came out with interesting kind of, I would say, options for us, that what can be done, what cannot be done. And overall, I would say that the convincing process, the understanding process, building the bridges process actually reduced the litigations, the acrimony, and then also ensure that we do the implementation smoothly over a period of time. And there were some adaptations and adoptions done. So we have taken, I would say we were flexible. At least our team, over a period of time, I find they were very flexible. I always say that you have all kinds of stories, but I am sharing the positive aspect of it. Is that the resettlement solutions, for instance, creating shopping complexes in a particular location, because people said, look, we are coming along with because they're generally mixed land uses, shops and the residences. So we try to work it out that how do we give them design options fitting within the development control regulation. We can't make very small houses because, for instance, there is a what you call a chai ki tapri, chai shop. It's very small. So we need to look at that. I have 3 minutes to go. I'll go because I started about 10 minutes late, so I'll take 13 minutes. Community involvement, especially Mahila Milan communities were formed. And I would say that this was one thing which, especially living styles in multi-storied structures, not all, but most of the places where certain NGOs were involved, we were able to sensitize people not to throw garbage and maintain, because that will lead into health hazards. So there were studies which came out. I was also part of the study team. So what we are looking for is that behavioral aspect is one thing, is very, very critical in socio-cultural and behavioral aspects. It's very, very important in these kind of resettlement services. So we need to carry out proper training and assisting communities in ensuring that people understand that space is theirs. Unless you own up, unless you take the responsibility of a space, no third party will come. Third party in the sense maybe the municipality or somebody else. And if you have to maintain, let's maintain our space properly. And we had this income saving and other schemes which was through Mahila Milan, and it was very successfully done. And then there was a public information system as per the guidelines of the World Bank. And I am told that this is one of the best in across the globe, the kind of system which we had created here. And NGOs also kind of supported us, and people could go and check the documentation was there. And if there is not, all the documents are not there, MMRDA always had a special room on the ground floor where we could come back and do it, or on the third floor where my office was. So what we basically built is public consultation and transparency process. And this is the grievance cell which I had earlier mentioned about. There were at two levels. One was at the field level, which were local NGOs and project implementing agencies, the site engineer or the allotment officer. That was the first level where we would do it. And the next was the high level grievance thing, where we had this office in the MMRDA complex. And here a retired kind of a senior officer from the government was dealing with these kind of cases. And the third, which is an independent monitoring panel, where a lot of citizens from the city, people, professionals from media, professionals from, I would say, the Women Association, and we had the Nirmala Niketan, one of the professors was involved. And there were independently one or two constituted people who were there as part of it. So this used to be placed, should be placed directly to them. First level, second level, and this is, would say, third level, but an independent body. So we had to revise, and this was a body which was meeting the World Bank directly and the inspection panels. And this part, I would say, the PRS, this is where the real community resilience system was created. And this was in the part of the MMRDA's post-resettlement strategy, wherein we created a business proposition called Sankalp, and we supported them, and they were running the MMRDA canteen. They were also manufacturing or producing file covers and other activities. So this was done through this process of this Sankalp, and Sankalp per se in Marathi, it means, it's a resolution. So this is a kind of, from here I would say this is the turning point that a PAP becomes a beneficiary. So we created a livelihood cell, and then we had this livelihood enhancement action program, which is quite a detailed one. And here what we did is that people, the PAPs, the women could have their own areas, which was, commercial, I would say, space or a business opportunity. And these are some of the benefits, selling stationery, food, they were given, shopping complexes, some vessels were given. So all this put together is that people gained a new confidence of proving one's self-esteem and improving self. So that I would say that what people felt that rehabilitation would be a kind of a disaster. Probably I would say that it was a kind of a community bouncing back. And what I would look at it, what would be the way forward, is simple readiness. That is what I feel that way back in 2000 when we used to sit with the World Bank and discuss. We never thought that it was something there, but we were only looking at that people need to be rehabilitated. To focus, but it transfers from simple readiness to focus on resiliency. Probably this is the way forward for all our future plans. And the last line what I felt while going through the documentation and is a detailed research to document the community resiliences in urban R&R could be a good area of research, maybe city specific, maybe project specific. And what I felt is, such detail, this is whatever I have shared is a kind of a very overall bird's eye view. But specific case studies, if had to be studied and understood, we need to do that. And from resilience development as a restorative practice, what are we looking for? This is a medical term, especially from the dental sciences. So what I felt is that we need to get into, how do we create that as a restorative practice in planning itself. And acknowledgements is Robert B. Zolek. He had said that he visited the site a couple of times, and he felt that the rehabilitation efforts done by the World Bank, the government of Maharashtra, the railways, and everybody was good. And also in a workshop, he said that we need to build R&R as an important issue in the development planning. And project beneficiaries were happy. I look at it, MUTP sites are a laboratory to learn about experience of urban rehabilitation and risk resettlement, community resilience. Specific to World Bank, because there was a procedure and I think it can probably be created into a policy document for future activities. There are a lot of documents on the World Bank website, especially the manuals which we have created. And all I say is bounce back. Assimilate yourself in part of the system. Thank you very much.